We've all heard the jokes about women drivers. But when you are behind the wheel of an entire world-class racetrack, nobody's laughing. In fact, your street cred jumps to pole position.
I grew up a race fan. In college, I decided to change my major from animal science to marketing.
Julie Giese is president of Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, home to the high-octane championship sport of NASCAR. Every March and November, more than 75,000 racing fans not only attend the weekend event, but put it in park.
We have campers that move in Monday of race week, and they spend the entire week here. We turn into a small town, and so they're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we don't put race cars on track until Friday.
It's tailgating, NASCAR style.
So they're here just having a great time. It becomes this wonderful city, and everybody just is having so much fun just being at the racetrack.
But there's even a bigger story here, and that's Julie herself. Before shifting her career into high gear, Julie first got up to speed at a racetrack in upstate New York.
I was lucky enough to land that job at Watkins Glen International, entry level, do whatever I needed to do. Got the opportunity to move to Daytona in 2004 as their director of communications.
But it was the work she did on a $400 million remodeling project at the famed Speedway,
reimagination of an American icon at Daytona,
that brought her to Arizona. Julie changed lanes from marketing to construction, and in 2016 began working on Phoenix Raceway's $178 million renovation.
It essentially changed the entire look of this facility. The only thing that wasn't really touched is the racetrack. And we did actually touch that by moving the start-finish line, but the actual track itself and the shape and the asphalt stayed the same.
It was all about revving things up for the fans.
Access is a big part of what NASCAR is all about. You can get close to the drivers and the race teams, and you can walk out onto the racetrack and sign the start-finish line. And so it's our challenge as we were working on this project was how do we take that to a whole new level? And how do we make it a game changer? And for us, the infield experience that we have here, I think truly does that. It allows our race fans to actually walk into the NASCAR garages. They're 2 feet away from their favorite drivers, their race teams, the cars. It's like walking into a locker room prior to a football game. You just don't get to do that.
It's this infield experience that she says separates Phoenix Raceway from other tracks.
There are so many things that our fans get to experience. They're not just a spectator, they're part of the event. And I think that's what really makes it special because it's not just sitting in a seat and watching what unfolds around you. There are so many other things that you can do leading into that race before the green flag falls that makes you feel like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is my sport. This is what I love.
In 2018, just before the updated track was unveiled, Julie Giese was named president of Phoenix Raceway.
I think for me, the proudest moment is November of 2018 when we opened this facility. It was my first race as a track president, and we had this team of people that had been working the last 20 plus months on their day jobs and the construction, and to see it all come together, it's hard to explain what a race day feels like when you're working it, because you've got all these things going on and you've got to make sure you're getting all things done and putting out fires. But there's a moment in time when you've given the command to start the engines, the jets have just flown over, you've sung the national anthem, the grandstands are full, and it's just like, okay, this is why we do this.
But there is another moment that comes pretty close.
We do get the championship here. Every time, I still have goosebumps every time I hear it. It's a proud moment for us. It's the first time that NASCAR has moved that championship in 18 years. So for them to select Phoenix Raceway, the state of Arizona, just our valley, to be the host of that is special for us. And we are so excited.
Julie credits the reimagined raceway for driving the decision to move the championship to Phoenix. But she says they could not have done it without the fans.
This was about the race fans, and I think we knocked it out of the park, and our fans tell us this. They love coming here. The experience is second to none.
On On Camelback Road, just west of Central Avenue in Phoenix, parallel to the light rail, you'll find the Newton. It's a modern mixed-use space, almost like a mini mall, built with the neighborhood and community in mind.
When the developers approached us about opening the restaurant here, they wanted partners. They wanted people that would have their skin in the game.
There's a bookstore and bar, a restaurant, and a gardening shop.
And it was almost a no-brainer. We walked through this space and it was old and weird, but something about it was calling to us. I'm Justin Beckett. I'm the chef and co-owner of Southern Rail Restaurant here in Phoenix, Arizona. And we serve American food with flavors and twists from the South.
Like the old rail lines that connected the southern U.S. with the West, Chef Beckett's food carves out a culinary and cultural journey, introducing rural cuisine in an urban setting.
I think one of the misnomers about Southern food is that it's actually all butter and gravy and fried. I mean, don't get me wrong, delicious dishes come from that. But I think one of the amazing parts of Southern food is the vegetable focus. And if you travel through the South from the Austin and the Mississippis and even to the Low Country and the Carolinas and New Orleans, it's about what's growing now and what's delicious.
And this James Beard semifinalist has never met a vegetable he didn't like.
I'm a big fan of vegetables. I love using vegetables in all different ways. For me, I like turning a vegetable into something that it maybe doesn't even look like it.
While their menu changes all the time, Southern Rail's bestseller has been on the menu since day one.
People at Southern Rail love our fried chicken. And everywhere I go, they're like, oh, Southern Rail, that fried chicken, so it gets all kinds of awards. There's one on every table. But, I mean, it's marinated well, it's butchered well, it's fried well, it's delicious, it's paired with creamy mashed potatoes and our tangy collard greens. So, I mean, I don't blame anyone for ordering fried chicken at a Southern restaurant. I think one of the dishes that I wish I would have known about 30 years ago, earlier in my life, is pimento cheese. And for me, it's a humble thing. It's roasted peppers, it's some jalapeno, it's some cream cheese, some shredded cheese. But when you put all that together and put it on a little toast or eat it in a sandwich, it's like, I don't know, it's good on everything. So our pimento cheese is served on the menu in a heaping pile with fried green tomatoes served alongside of it. So you have that acidity and that kind of warm squish and crunch at the same time that you smush through the pimento cheese.
From the menu to the flocked wallpaper to flowers on the tables.
It really speaks to a Southern style, a place of comfort.
The restaurant and the rest of the Newton building also speak to what was a Phoenix institution. It's named after J. Newton, the founder of Beefeaters.
When you went to Beefeaters, it was an event. It was your grandmother coming in town taking you to a special dinner or a graduation, or maybe you were two business people getting some work done.
For 40 years, the who's who dined and drank here. But by the early 2000s, Beefeaters stood vacant.
I think one of the wonderful opportunities that we had when we opened up Southern Rail was to actually take apart the old 18,000 square foot restaurant piece by piece, brick by brick, piece of wood down off the ceiling and decide what to do with it. And we were fortunate because our partners were very handy with woodworking and metalworking. So we got to strip down pieces of wood and repurpose it for our ceiling or our patio deck or the shelves in our wine cellar. So for us, it was a mission to use as much as we could from the old building and repurpose it into the new building. I think there's two incredibly iconic parts of the Beefeaters that we were able to keep in Southern Rail. The first is the chandeliers.
Of course, they had to be updated with more modern electrical parts.
But they called us and said, do you want them polished? Do you want them straightened up? And we were like, no, leave them exactly how they are.
Also refurbished, these leather booths, reminiscent of the smoke on the wall. A proud reminder that a sit-down feast of prime rib was once just $7. Now Southern Rail is making its own unique mark on this storied property.
Southern hospitality is not just a word, it's not just an action, it's a feeling. So if you go somewhere and you have this Southern hospitality, you feel incredibly welcomed, you feel incredibly part of the experience.
And Southern Rail has Southern hospitality written all over it.
Dean and I both are animal people, and we love animals, all animals. And so our passion was to be around animals. It fulfilled our lives. I think we were both a product of our parents not letting us have enough animals when we were kids. Our love for the African animals started with experience with some giraffes in a zoo in the United States, and we had some wonderful experiences with communicating with giraffes. So when we went to Africa, we filled more of those experiences. We started taking groups to Africa and sharing that experience, but what a better way to be able to share that with a lot of people than to have Africa right here. So that's how Out of Africa kind of grew to be. And of course we have animals that are not just African animals.
Well, some of the popular animals are like the wolves. Hyenas, also an animal that you usually don't see somewhere. We have giant pythons that love to hug.
Yeah, I think Tiger Splash is coined as our best show. It's so unique for people to be in there with tigers, playing, pulling their tails, playing in the water, in and out of the water with toys, and just acting silly and being characters. And the audience is amazed that that could happen without us training, without weapons. It's the relationship. Of course, the safari is just as popular.
How would you describe Out of Africa to people who have perhaps experienced a zoo or another wildlife park? Why is Out of Africa different?
Out of Africa concerns itself with relationships with animals, with people, and our interaction together. We have a large giraffe right here, and this giraffe didn't come for no reason. He comes to be part of something greater than himself. If we can reverse our position, and instead of looking at animals as things or as objects to own, but instead as other beings sharing the planet with us, we get to be one. Out of Africa spans over 100 acres. There are hundreds of animals living in very large habitats. So we provide reasonable places to live, large spaces, and lots of friends. And they're having a good life.
And so people get to come out here and they get to watch you feed the animals, they get to watch people interact, and then they themselves get to interact one-on-one, like kind of we've done today with the animals.
Interaction is necessary. If you don't have a feeling of being close or being part of something, then you don't care that much about it either. If you love animals, Out of Africa is an experience that you can have that fulfills not only the love that you have for animals as a person, but the animals can have for you.
And many people return to the park many times, and they'll come up to us and say, you know, that tiger recognized me. You know, he poofed, he said hello back to me. So it's thrilling to them. If we wait at the entrance when the people are leaving the park at night, they're smiling, they're happy, and they're thanking us for what they experienced that day because of the animals.
Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground." With all due respect to President Roosevelt, he obviously didn't have the fun that I've had in the air. One of the most amazing things about Arizona is our gorgeous big blue skies. And if you have ever wanted to soar like an eagle, join me for a tour of our Arizona skyways. Hang gliding might be the one sport that makes a good argument that man was really meant to fly.
Maybe you've had the dreams of flying and stuff like that. That's what hang gliding is.
Mingus Mountain is the #1 hang gliding spot in Arizona.
It's probably the best state in the nation.
Believe it or not, hang gliders don't consider themselves daredevils.
You know, we fly with a lot of safety gear. We fly with parachutes. We're well prepared for it. Most of the time, if you're gonna have an accident or something like that, it's probably because of a judgment call. And it's only as safe as you are.
I started flying hang gliders after flying sailplanes and airplanes for years back in 1994. Actually still living in Austin, Texas, and went through the training program, and shortly thereafter moved out here and came up to this site, Mingus Mountain, and couldn't believe just what an incredible place this was to fly.
Gliders, sailplanes, easy breezy and peaceful.
There's no motor, it's quiet, you enjoy the scenery, and obviously you're flying, which isn't something you do otherwise.
The people that have even stronger reactions are those people who choose to do an acro ride where they can wind up going, you know, over, around, up, down, fly upside down for a while.
But the vast majority of people get up and they go, wow, this is so beautiful. I really understand why you like it.
If, however, you're like me and prefer silently soaring over Sedona's red rocks, then jump in the basket because this is the sky ride for you. The beauty of hot air ballooning is that no two rides are ever the same.
But once we took off, it was great. You just sort of lifted off and then you were floating. It was spectacular.
And it was just very tranquil, very peaceful. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, so I'm very glad I did it.
And it was kind of looking out, like if you just kind of push back from the world and you see where you were, and it's pretty, and you can see all the animals and you don't make a lot of noise, so they're not like scared and they don't really run away.
No runways or landing gear. Your pilot is just trying to avoid obstacles for a gentle landing. Traveling our Arizona highways, byways, and skyways for the past 16 years, I think I can make a great argument that maybe in Arizona, we were really meant to fly. Pitch, rhythm, and tempo. According to Darwin, humans have an innate ability to create and respond to the sounds of music. So, as cliche as it sounds, music is truly a universal language. A decade or so ago, one of the most unique museums opened in North Phoenix. And according to TripAdvisor, it has quickly become one of the top 15 museums in the country. I'm talking about the Musical Instrument Museum, or the MIM, the world's only global musical instrument museum. The MIM was founded by Robert J. Ulrich, former CEO of the Target Corporation. An avid collector of African art and a world museum enthusiast, the idea for the MIM came after a visit to the Musical Instrument Museum in Brussels, Belgium. Today, musical instruments and music of every country in the world receive equal representation. Using technology, we can see and hear musical instruments in their authentic cultural context. It truly is a one-of-a-kind experience. In addition, there are education and kids programs, concerts from national and global musicians, and great events celebrating different countries and cultures. Phoenix was chosen as the site to house this amazing global collection of instruments, including many on loan that belong to popular artists such as John Lennon, Taylor Swift, and Alice Cooper. While there may be other museums that house musical instruments, there is only one MIM, and it's here, just off an Arizona highway.
Right here is 12 West Brewing, and they make fantastic beer. Are you a beer fan?
I like beer.
They brew it themselves, and then also over here is their barrel aging room. So they do
I see,
a lot of
that's
the barrel
right.
aged beers in here.
That's great.
we have the Nelly Fonzarelli. This is going to be our 100% Nelson Pale Ale. And then we have the Kalax. This is a New England style IPA, and it's definitely a hazy type of IPA. They're very good, low on the bitterness, so a lot of people who aren't really keen on IPAs really like it and really enjoy it.
Believe it or not, 12 West actually uses not just wheat and hops, but fresh citrus and other ingredients from Agritopia's farm.
We have one called Black Blap right now that is a Belgian wheat done with citrus from the farm. The first batch was done with all blood oranges, it was delicious. There weren't enough blood oranges to do it the second time, so we did it with Tangelos and navel oranges.
So what makes it pink?
And a little bit of beet juice for color. Yes, beet juice in your beer, a little bit goes a long way.
So it's really light, crisp, refreshing. It's not overly sweet like it may look. It's slowly becoming one of our best sellers for sure.
We loved the idea of bringing something like this to the East Valley. As much as downtown Gilbert's blowing up, this is a little not as hectic, a little bit farther away, and it's perfect for this. It really just builds on the community that already exists here.
I'm going to take a minute and show you how to make the guacamole, barrio style. First thing we're going to do is select a Hass avocado. You know, I can't help but tell you that avocado comes from Mexico, just in case you didn't know and were wondering. So you can thank Mexico for the avocado. In about a minute, you're going to be thanking me for this wonderful guacamole. I'm not going to do a typical guacamole. I'm just gonna sit here and cube it. See how it's nice and cubed? And it's just a matter of preference. We're gonna add tomato or tomate, cebolla, a little onion, a little black pepper, some salt, a little bit more salt, and a little bit of cilantro. So now we're gonna add the finishing touch, almost the finishing touch. It's about 2 of these, maybe 3, depending what you like. And this is lime, limón mexicano. What's more Mexican than lime on everything? All right, so that looks good. We're gonna toss it first. Just a little light toss. Kind of think of baking when you fold in your ingredients. Just like that, and watch this. This is the part that everybody loves. It's pomegranates, barrio style guacamole.